What's going on? So, gonna talk some more guitar stuff. Last time I talked about EQ, this time I'm gonna talk about compression because compression and EQ are absolute must-haves for anyone trying to record basically anything. What compression does is it compresses the signal. All these little peaks, all these up parts, and then all these down parts, that's what compression is gonna affect. All of the peaks, it's going to bring them down, compress them, but it's also going to bring up the low parts, so it's compressing from both sides. Think of it like that. Basically, just think of compression as a automated volume knob, kind of. It does a little bit more than that, but that's not a bad way of thinking about it. You have your threshold, which is when it starts to work, your attack, which is how quickly it works, your release, which is how quickly it stops working, your ratio, which is how much it works, and then your makeup gain, which is right here. Makeup gain is how you smush it up from the bottom. So this bass track, I'm going to select just a chunk of it like that, and you see you have lots of peaks, and then you have this lower part down here, these troughs. It gets pretty quiet right there. So if you lower the threshold and up the ratio, we're gonna go 6 because that's, I don't know, somewhat random. And then bring this down, and you can see over here, this is how much it's bringing it down. You can see negative 6 dB, is that what it said? 5.5, 6, somewhere around there. So what you'll do is you'll take the makeup gain slider and you'll go up to about 6-ish. And that's making the quiet parts louder and the louder parts quieter. It's compressing it from both sides. Or in the stock Recomp, the stock Reaper compressor, you can just hit auto makeup and it does it for you. It's kind of nice. Without it, and then with it. Don't mind the high-pitched little crackles and stuff. That's because I was facing the monitor when I recorded the bass. I just recorded it real quick, wasn't paying any attention. Usually I have to face that way so it doesn't pick up all the noise from the monitor and the speakers and the computer and everything else that's over here. So don't mind that, but yes, this is how you make a track louder. That is the absolute basics of compression right there. Bust out the stock Reaper compressor, twiddle some knobs. You got threshold, ratio, makeup gain. Those are your 3 money knobs. Those are your 3 money sliders right there. Have at it. Now for something a bit more advanced, you can do multi-band compression. And Reaper's multi-band compressor is amazing. Think of this as exactly what we were just using, but 4 times, or 5, or 6, or 7, or however many times you want. It's a compressor for each little chunk of the frequency spectrum. That's all it is. But this is how you make certain portions of a tone or an instrument or whatever stick out more. So if you want to make your kick drum snappier, or if you want to make your bass pop a little bit more, you get the cool slappy poppy tone, this is how you do it. On this tone, we're gonna do like this middle chunk right here. You have your top frequency, which is where it stops working, basically. You're just telling it what portion to affect. You have on this side, you can scoot it over, and then this side you scoot it over, and I don't think you can move it over directly. No, you can't. You gotta do them. Yeah, okay. Anyway, when you pull this down, auto makeup gain is already on. So really all you have to do is set your ratio. We're gonna do whatever, 5.3, and then you bring it down. That's how you get that mid-range grunt and a lot of noise because I was facing my monitor. Again, don't mind that, but yeah. When I'm recording, I use this on basically every track I do. In one way or another. I'll usually push down the lows a little bit just to kind of squash that a bit, and then the mid-range I'll move around, compress that usually a fair amount to get that kind of mid-range growl, that out of the middle. I think it sounds good. Usually. And then in the mix, about like that. You'll probably have to turn it down after you compress it because overall it'll be louder, it'll feel louder. So you'll have to adjust for that in the mix, but you know, no big deal, right? Next cool compressor trick is sidechain compression, and what that is feeding a signal from one instrument into the compressor on another. So a lot of the time you'll have sidechain used in like EDM, like dance music. That's how you get that pumping with the kick drum kind of sound. They feed the signal from the kick into other parts of the track, and that's what makes that kind of pumping sound. To illustrate, I have a kick drum right here. Fancy, I know. And we're going to go into our routing for that track. And we're going to send that to, what is this, 5. And you have to change this. I don't really know what the hell that is, but yeah, I don't know. It's audio 1, 2, I guess, on this track, like the first out. I don't know. Just do that. Trust me, it works. And then we're going to go back to this is track 5. This is the bass track. We have the good old normal compressor, and you go into auxiliary input and watch the meters. All right. Now we're going to bring this down and our ratio up, and I'm going to make this kind of like belligerently obvious. You know, obviously you wouldn't go for this in real life, but to illustrate a point, you hear how it's ducking? It's going down every time the kick hits. That's sidechain for you. This is super useful in scenarios not just dance music though. Anytime you have a really, really cluttered mix or a lot of stuff going on, this can help a whole lot. Like, let's say I have this mix and I can't get the bass and the guitar to fit. It's just not working. I don't know why. Everything's just too busy, and I can't get it to work. What I could do is send this into this track, which is both of the guitar tracks. So send into that. Do the weirdness. I don't know why. And then on this, go in here. Compressor. And see, this is the signal. This is the signal from the bass now. And I can bring the guitars down as the bass gets louder. When you're doing sidechain, usually you don't want any makeup gain because you're trying to make it quieter. So you don't want to, you know, make it louder when you're trying to make it quieter. But listen to how the bass is pushing down the guitars now. Again, this is somewhat more exaggerated than I would usually do, but to illustrate a point, listen. Pretty subtle still, actually. But you can still hear how the guitars are kind of getting a little bit, they're making a little bit of room for the bass. So between the EQ stuff that I showed in the last video, where you have mid-side and everything else, and then some sidechain compression, you can make stuff really, really stand out in a mix, like a whole lot. Sometimes that's exactly what you're looking for. Final compression trick is how to make stuff louder, punchier, whatever. It's just like in the photography world, even if you have a picture that's like perfectly exposed and everything is technically perfect, usually people will pick the brighter picture. In music, it's a similar thing where they'll usually pick the louder track. It's just kind of how it is. So to make stuff louder, you want to compress it. You want to bring the peaks down and the valleys up. That makes everything feel louder, especially when you use the makeup gain, it actually gets louder. Watch the meter down here. So I have threshold set, the makeup gain set, and the ratio is at 3 to 1. Yeah, 3 to 1. And this is it without it. See where the meter is? Now, when I turn the compressor on, it's going to bring the peaks down, the valleys up, and all of it goes like this. Watch. I like using this Solid Bus Comp. It's a Native Instruments plugin. It comes with Native Instruments Complete and some other packages that they have. It's a nice subtle, like I don't think you can even do sidechain. Maybe sidechain gain, maybe that's what that, I don't even know. I don't use it for that. This is a nice subtle compressor to bring everything together. I like putting it on the bus, the master bus. I mean, hence the name, I suppose. It's a good way to make everything kind of congeal a little bit better and make stuff louder. So without it, and then with it, but it's not just everything louder, it's everything kind of mushed together, and it makes everything fit a bit more. That's why compressor is awesome. That's why you gotta have it. So to do this with the stock compressor, I'll do it one more time with this just to kind of show how it's done. You would lower the threshold to wherever. What did I have that set at? 4, I think. Do that, and then we'll use auto makeup gain, because why not? So with and without. That's how you make stuff louder with a compressor. Makeup gain, where it's at. While yes, these are absolutely vital to mixing, they're not really that hard to learn. Some really good ones come built into Reaper. I don't know exactly how their EQ is. I don't think I've ever used it, come to think of it. I've always used ProQ, but wherever you get your EQ from, it doesn't really matter. The compressors built into Reaper are fantastic. I actually use those a lot. But yeah, just get in there and turn some knobs and slide some sliders. Now you know kind of what they do, and, well, do it to whatever sounds good, whatever fits your ear. Have fun with it. If you got any questions or anything, let me know. Post what you record down in the comments. Later.